Let's bring in panel this afternoon because I know they will have some reflections on John Clarke as well. Grahame Morris, Bruce Hawker, good to see you this afternoon. Hello from India. Can I tell you firstly, for my part, one of the greatest tributes I ever received, and I'm not sure if it was meant in a kind way, was after an interview I'd done with George Brandis on metadata, and someone, well, a number of people had said that looked just like a Clarke and Dorr interview, and I took that as a great credit, in fact. But anyway, look, Grahame, to you first. What are some of your fondest memories of John Clarke's work?
Well, look, you know, it's been a terrible start to 2017 where we lose the sort of prince of political cartooning, and now we've lost the sort of king of political satire. Over the years, we've had people like Gillies and Working Dog and D-Generation and the Wharf Review, but John Clarke could do it without being cruel. You know, every one of the episodes was really clever. And you know, everyone from Prime Ministers down, some of the other things they would wince at. But this one, they would be laughing at themselves with John Clarke. And that was extraordinary. I still don't know why the ABC shifted the time slot to a time when nobody watched. But you know, it's wrecked my Thursday nights, him not being there now.
Well, I think we've got, Grahame, this one that I know you identified, and it was a recent one, actually. I think it was just from last week. I remember watching it myself. Have a look.
How do you determine what passes the pub test?
Well, Malcolm Turnbull and I went to a pub, Brian, and we sought people's views. We said, what is your view of these proposed company tax cuts?
Who did you ask?
Myself personally?
Yeah.
I asked Malcolm, Brian.
And who did Malcolm ask?
He asked me.
In a pub?
In a pub, yeah. It's a pub test, Brian.
Pub.
You do it in a pub. I mean, we were surrounded by ordinary people who were just having a few, but there couldn't be a fairer test.
Yeah, and Bruce, the amazing thing about him was he didn't have to dress up, put on a funny wig or put on even a silly voice or, you know, try and imitate. He just did it straight, but it was in what he said that was just so brilliant.
It was the absurdity of it all, and I think that's what people really love, because, you know, politicians sometimes are quite absurd, and I think we're all party to that terrible conspiracy, and he was able to just to punch right through that and have us laughing all along the way, and I think that was wonderful about the man, and I'm certainly going to miss him. Those series he did on the games were fantastic, because, you know, they were actually preparing for the games in New South Wales when we were watching all that, and it rang so true. You know, the fellow that's brought in because he's made the 100 metres track 110 metres long, and he's trying to get out of answering a very obvious question from John Clarke as to how long did you make the track and why is it not 100 metres long? You know, that sort of stuff was just priceless, and yeah. I hope we'll be seeing it for watching the repeats for years to come.
Oh, we will. He will be absolutely missed, no doubt about it. Let's let me get your thoughts on turning to some policy issues. India, we're here in New Delhi, the PM making his first official visit here. Now, you've both seen this relationship over many years, and you've heard the lines from whichever Prime Minister we want to think about here, John Howard, Kevin Rudd, Julia Gillard, Tony Abbott. This relationship should be more than it is. We should be trading more than we are. This is a great democracy, you know, a country that's soon going to be, well, in about 10 or 15 years, bigger than China. Why is the trade relationship not what it should be, Grahame? You first.
Because they keep beating us at cricket. No, look, the people who really follow this a bit closer than I do, they say to me the problem over the years and even now is still that India wants to export many, many more workers to Australia. That's a slight political problem for us. On the flip side, we are big on open trade and free trade and sending more of our goods to India. But the bureaucracy over there, forever, have been very, very protectionist. So you've got these two things hitting each other, and it's really hard to see how you get through it. Yes, I think the Prime Minister and the Education Minister are on the right track. Let's talk about the things that we can fix, like the exchanges on education, certain stuff on resources, certain stuff on defence and security. That's good. But the two really hard ones, which is people coming from India to work and our goods, more of our goods, particularly agriculture, coming to India. Not this trip.
Yeah, it's pretty hard, Bruce, isn't it? And look, it was pretty clear from the PM's comments this afternoon, I don't know if you saw them, he said, we're going to persevere with free trade negotiations, but it's going to take some time. It was hardly talking up the chances of a speedy resolution to any free trade agreement between our two countries.
Yeah, I sometimes wonder whether it's the fact that that democracy is part and parcel of the Indian system, that it's a harder country to negotiate these deals with than the Chinese, who don't let those sorts of little piffling issues get in the way of striking a deal. I mean, when you look at it, they've got so many of the same demands in their economy as the Chinese do, and yet the Chinese seem to have been able to get on and with things much more effectively and efficiently in terms of their relationship with Australia than the Indians have. And I'm not saying that's all the Indians' fault either. I think, you know, I saw an interview with Chobo recently where he claimed that the problem was that they wanted to give priority to a free trade agreement with Indonesia, as if we can't be doing a free trade agreement negotiation with India and Indonesia at the same time. I think we've dropped the ball on this one as well, and maybe it is the fact that this was a very bureaucratic and very protectionist country, as Graham said, for a long time, that's made it difficult. But they haven't been in that. They haven't been protectionist, you know, for quite a few years now. They've been really trying to open up their borders, and I think it's time for us to step up, because we must be missing out on a lot of opportunities in India, a lot.
Well, yeah, I think their barriers on agriculture are still pretty high and not moving very fast. Look, we shouldn't play down where progress is being made, right? On education, it's an amazing story that we are number 2 destination after the United States. Given our size, attracting Indian students, that's terrific. You know,
Well, we really have made a lot of advances in education. Of course, there was that glitch a few years ago, particularly in Victoria, where a lot of Indian students were being attacked, assaulted, and there was a very strong reaction to that, even though it was quite clear that most of those crimes were very opportunistic, because these people were working in isolated environments and in shops late at night and were just easy targets. But yeah, that really is an important area for us now. I think education is about our number 3 export in some states, including Victoria. And we really need to, you know, keep focusing on that, because there's a real hunger for education in that country.
Graham and Bruce, I'm just going to pick up David Speers. He said he's having a few technical issues with his line. So it's Ashley Gillen with you here in Melbourne. Before we go, I do just want to get your view on the Ray Hadley, Scott Morrison spat we saw today, with Ray Hadley saying on radio that Scott Morrison no longer has this regular spot on 2GB on his program, a spot that he's been joining Ray Hadley for the past 4 years or so. Let's just remind our viewers of what this spat is all about. This was Ray Hadley earlier on radio today.
On Friday afternoon, my executive producer spoke to Mr Morrison's office. They phoned him and said, "Hi, John, the Treasurer will be travelling on Monday, so won't be able to speak with Ray. You can look at Tuesday if you like." John then phoned me. I said, "No, it's Monday or nothing. He comes on Mondays. We're not changing things to suit him." And today we are told that he's appearing, because we got a media release from his office. The Treasurer will be interviewed on ABC Melbourne by John Fain this morning after 9 o'clock. Well, look, you'll be delighted, you people that have been telling me for the last 12 months it's a waste of time, because the regular chat with the Treasurer is now abandoned. He can seek someone else out to have a talk to, because I'm afraid I don't like being lied to.
Graham, how devastated will Scott Morrison be that the bromance is over officially with Ray Hadley?
Well, look, Ray's audience is very much, well, it's similar to Scott Morrison, the Treasurer's electorate. You know, that area south of George River. So, yes, it's important for the Treasurer, but apart from that, Hadley has a very, very big audience. And many of them, you could say probably the majority, would vote for Scott Morrison. But it's a very good platform to talk about in a mum and dad way about what's happening in Canberra. Look, it's a bit of a shame. I would have thought that the staff could have explained, and could still explain, that when you're on the road, sometimes, let's say you're going to Victoria or Perth, you tend to focus on that place. Let's do Victoria properly. Let's do Perth properly. Let's do Darwin properly. And I think Ray sort of thought, well, hang on, I've been dudded here. But in fact, it's the way some of the programs work. However, if I was in the Treasurer's office, I think I would always have had that blank spot at about 9:15, whatever it is, 9:30, and you know that's for Hadley, no matter where in the world you are. So it's a bit of a shame, and I think Scott will be disappointed too.
Bruce, the press set could arguably have handled this whole situation, a hell of a lot better. But
yeah.
Do you think it really does matter? Is Ray Hadley's program that important to Scott Morrison, especially outside of Sydney?
Oh, I think it's a significant audience for a Conservative politician like Scott Morrison. I think, though, that the bromance that they were having for quite a few years has been cooling for some time, and that Hadley's affections are now directed more towards Peter Dutton than they were to Scott Morrison. So maybe this was just their way of breaking it off in a very public and unedifying way. And I would think that Morrison will be trying to do everything he can to rebuild it. There's no doubt that Hadley dislikes Malcolm Turnbull, and that Morrison being forced to defend Turnbull on a regular basis has caused real problems for him. By the way, can I say that was a seamless move from David to you, Ashley. I mean, that was very impressive. And maybe
I'm a true professional, Bruce, as you know.
And maybe...
I've been sitting here waiting for the wings. I'm staging a takeover. Watch out.
It was very impressive. And I think we better add telecommunications to the areas where Australia and India are going to start working up on, starting to improve their act a bit.
Yeah, Look, it is a bit tough going live from New Delhi. Look, both of you, Grahame and Bruce, appreciate your time as always. More coming up here on PM Agenda after the break. We'll have the last word for you next.